Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got a massive report to share with you. This one specifically in regards to what is happening with the Iranian nuclear deal and how Trump is backing out of that, as well as the repercussions that it's going to have on our economy. When you hear about everything going on in the news with the Iran deal, it's evidently and as a result, it's causing chaos in the economy. So what I wanted to do was bring on Colin Plume with noblegoldinvestments.com, because he's got all of the inside information on that. Not only that, but we're going to get into how billionaires and millionaires are hoarding tons of gold and even Bitcoin. So Colin, are you with me over there?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lot of going on in the news today, especially with this Trump pulling out of the deal with Iran, which was, I think everybody that is a believer in democracy and our allies in Israel believe that this was a good move for us, and really it was a deal that we were giving Iran 200 billion plus a year to comply, and unfortunately they weren't. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu came out a few weeks ago and provided all the proof necessary that Iran has no, they're in no way are they going to comply with any kind of denuclearization. They came with all the documents. The U.S. saw the documents and said, this is ridiculous for us to be involved, to give them money, and we pulled out of it. It was the right move to pull out of that deal, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, here we are losing tons of money in a deal that Iran is very obviously breaking the laws in. I'll throw up the Bloomberg article there, but it's Israel claims proof of secret Iran plans for nuclear weapons. That was put out just about a week ago. But there you have proof that they're not doing what they were told. We know they are doing it under the radar. So when this was signed back in 2015? Does that sound about right? Don't quote. That's the closest I can come. But Obama era, if you will, and it's just gone down the tubes. Never was a real deal. And so yeah, let's get out of it. But what repercussions is that going to have on the economy?
Well, the downside of pulling out of a deal like this is anytime you see any kind of political unrest. Obviously, there's going to be repercussions in that part of the world, and it's going to have a trigger effect to our economy. It usually leads to economic unrest, and that's why you see the smart money billionaires going into assets, alternative assets like gold and cryptocurrencies. They're getting away from the dollar. They're getting away from the stock market. One of the largest telecom operators. Very wealthy family, Mr. Sawari, just put half of his net worth into gold. Report came out, he put a little over $2 billion of his $5 billion net worth into gold. And so, people are looking for safe havens right now, and that's typically what you have. A lot of times when you do the right thing, you pull out of a bad deal, there's going to be repercussions. There's going to be some kind of unrest. I think Israel, even though they're happy about the deal, it's going to be, the countries around them are going to put a lot of pressure on them. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some rockets getting fired, unfortunately. And that usually leads the markets to get a little bit shaky. And so people are fleeing equities, paper, and they're going into more traditional kind of safe haven investments.
Yeah, safe haven being gold, silver, precious metals, even Bitcoin, which all of you offer on noblegoldinvestments.com. So that information is going to be below. But I wanted to share with you guys also, I came across this article on thestreet.com. And what it basically does is it talks about the danger of what's going on in our economy. Now, this is a very current article. Let me get the date. It was put out May 9th. So very up to date. But here's the danger that they're warning about. According to the individual on this, it says income taxes produced 1.6 trillion revenue in fiscal year 2017. Under this 2020 scenario that they give on this, over half of all personal income tax will be required just to service the national debt. In other words, they have to take half our pay in order just to meet the national debt minimums, if you will. And obviously, we're not at 50% tax bracket, right? But this is what we're looking at. And annual debt service in 2020 will exceed our newly increased defense budget of 700 billion in 2018. Annual debt service will exceed our Social Security obligations. So basically, this is looking very grim. No matter what we do to the economy, unless we've got that 50% cut, and we're still barely meeting minimum unless they take all our paychecks, then we're just all doomed, So these are the things, but I want to share too what they say as what can you do? Like the actual recommendations, what can you do? And they say that buy medium and long-term bonds and consider diversifying what you have into reasonable amounts of gold, silver, commodities, precious metals. This is a recommendation from thestreet.com as well. This is huge.
Yeah, and I think to simplify, sometimes when we get into talking about finances, people, it's a little over their head. Sometimes it's over my head in terms of what they're talking about. But in essence, what you read is that the government right now, it's almost like if you and I have half of the money that after we pay taxes, if we had to put half that money and pay a credit card, in essence, that's what it is, it's debt, then we wouldn't, that's the money we need to pay our mortgage or pay our rent or pay our food. But now they're saying half the money that we bring in from taxes has to pay off this debt bubble. And so that's the problem, is that we have other obligations that we pay for. In our Government Lies Exposed ebook that we've talked about a number of times, the government says we have about 107 trillion in unfunded liabilities that we can't pay for. We also have just the standard debt that we have to pay on, which is what they're talking about in that article, which is about 22 trillion. So until we get in front of that debt, until we start to make some cuts to our economy, we're going to be in trouble, and eventually people are going to start calling in these bonds. They're going to eventually say that our economy is not as strong as we think it is, and that's where we're going to see that big pullback like we did in 2008, like we did in 2001. And everybody remembers those pullbacks are fast and furious, 40 to 50% within 3 to 6 months. So you really do have to be protected. And when you see this Egyptian billionaire, who's typically a very risky investor, the way he made his net worth is that he was the first operator to go into North Korea and build a telecom business, which, if you talk to a normal business owner, they would say that's crazy. He went there, did that, made all this money, and now says, you know what, I want to pull back some of this risk. I'm putting half of my money in precious metals. So when you see the big investors doing that, it's typically time to kind of take notice and look at your accounts.
Absolutely. And that's why, people say, oh, it's just a sales. It's not just about that. It's because I truly care. Obviously, I do it myself here. This is the gold I bring and show. Obviously, there's more to it. But people, you need to have some kind of other tangible, whether you're doing it in converting your 401k to a Roth IRA, which you guys offer there, getting gold, silver, precious metals. Look, if the rich and wealthy are doing it, we really want to follow suit because they know and are a little bit more privy to information. And that wasn't all. There's also another article, and I'll bring this one up, also from Bloomberg. The wealthy are also hoarding 10 billion of Bitcoin in bunkers, which I found that interesting. Obviously Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency kind of, there is no bunker holding, but basically they mean they have 10 billion worth in Bitcoin that they're holding for a rainy day. They could let that go. They could cash that in. So lots of things are happening, but all this in a nutshell, if you want to survive the economy, according to the street, according to the things that we've shared, we are crossing lines here with the economy. It cannot continue on the path. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, that article was fascinating and talking about them hoarding and storing Bitcoin in bunkers. And obviously people have been storing gold this way for a long time. The company that's doing it, Zappo, they're a 4-year-old company. They're storing it in different offsite locations. They're storing it in cold storage in a bunker. We store our cryptocurrencies the exact same way. It's in cold storage. But the interesting thing is that this 4-year-old company holding $10 billion in Bitcoin, they have more value in that 4-year-old company than 98% of the world banks. And I thought that was fascinating that you have these banks that have been around for hundreds of years, besides the big ones like Wells Fargo and Bank of America. But your traditional smaller banks, this brand new entity has $10 billion in value stored. And they talk about in that article that they would never store any of this cryptocurrency in any kind of bank. It has to be held in private locations. So obviously if people are going to this extent, to hide. These billionaires and millionaires are going this extent to hold their assets in somewhere secret and private. They know that the future is there. They're not just selling it now to take a profit. They think this is going to be a long-term investment, which has always been the question about cryptocurrencies. Is it going to be around? But I think more and more we're seeing the signs that it is going to be around. People are taking a lot of precautions. 2 weeks ago, the NASDAQ CEO said that they're actually working with the Gemini exchange, which was started by the Winklevoss twins, the guys that were involved with Facebook, and they're going to be building an exchange for cryptocurrency, and that's NASDAQ. So I think the more you see these larger institutions get involved, they think the opportunity is there. And that's why we got involved. We believe in alternative investments, and we offer this program in IRAs. For Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs, you can roll your IRA into cryptocurrency, and we take care of all of it for people that aren't so savvy. They don't want to store it themselves or buy it. They want someone to handle that. We offer all that, and I can tell you the numbers are phenomenal. April alone, Bitcoin was up 33%. So, people talk about this growth of the stock market, and it's been great since Trump's been in office. It's up about 35% since he started, but Bitcoin went up 35% in 1 month. So that kind of phenomenal, rocket ship growth is you're only going to see that, very few times in your lifetime. And I think that Bitcoin is showing that it's got the legs, and there's more money going into it. So it's a very exciting time for cryptocurrencies.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you again, Colin, for coming on the broadcast. And I agree. Sometimes, I study the economy, and I rely on a lot of you guys' information to keep us up to date, to keep my audience up to date, because I know this is something you do on a daily basis, which is very important and a very imperative thing. So if anybody wants to check that out, noblegoldinvestments.com, and they can also get your free ebook, right? We still have that.
Yeah, the gold investment guide, silver, cryptocurrency, any of the ebooks that they call in and mention, Lisa will send that out to them and make sure we answer all their questions. And, our job is to educate people. So, feel free to get the guide, call in, talk to people here, get your questions answered. And, if we're the right fit, great. But if nothing else, get the information so that you're educated on all these alternative investments. Because really right now is the time. It's the stock market's, we've been in a bull market for 10 years. We've never seen a bull market go in the last 40 years. I don't think there's ever been a bull market go more than 10 years. So when it's going to collapse, nobody knows, but I think it's good to be diversified.
Absolutely, because we don't want to turn into this, right?
Exactly. The $10 billion, the Zimbabwe note. Yeah, you want to avoid that hyperinflation scenario.
Tell them what that's worth.
It's worth, depending if someone will pay for it, but about $1.50 in U.S. money right now.
So rich. I'm a billionaire now, right? Like, I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, you're close. You're almost there. But yeah, it's that's happening. I mean, the dollars, we haven't seen that kind of inflation, but I mean, listen, it's nowadays, you and I growing up, if you had $3, $4, $5 in your pocket, you could do stuff. You could buy some food, some ice cream. You could go to the arcade. I mean, you give a kid $4 or $5 today, they don't even know. It's laughable. You have to give them minimum $20 for them to do anything. And so, it's happening here. It's just, people aren't aware of it. They're not always watching it.
Well, thanks again for coming on the broadcast. And this is absolutely critical. I encourage you guys, convert your 401ks to a Roth IRA, get gold, silver, precious metals, or onto Bitcoin or something, because we are headed in that inflative direction, or, deflation, whatever the future. I believe we could be headed to inflation, but who knows what the future holds. And I encourage you guys, just make sure you're prepared. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven, and that was Colin Plume with Noble Gold Investments signing out.